This podcast contains language that some may find offensive. Parents should use discretion if children are present.
I did my pre-trip. I kicked the tires, sniffed the air, and didn't good enough. Now fuck off before I pre-trip your face.
Welcome to Highway Havoc, the podcast where adventure meets attitude. Buckle up, folks, because we're about to take the highway by storm. If you can't handle the language here, then you should probably find some other podcast. We're not for the faint of heart. Highway Havoc, we're on the move. Truckers and tales in trouble, that's what we prove. Laughs and life talks with special guests in tow. We're taking the highway and we're not going slow. Highway Havoc, to the city streets, we're bringing the heat and the stories that beat. Highway Havoc, it's a wild ride. Buckle up and let the good times collide. Highway Havoc.
In this episode of Highway Havoc, Jason Popeau and Mark Dixon are talking to Jon Benson, who recently returned from a motorcycle trip to the Arctic Circle in order to raise money for ALS. Coming from the Oregon coast, he traveled up as far as anyone can drive. Here he is to describe this monumental trip. Welcome to Highway Havoc, Episode 2, with our special guest, Jon Benson.
Yeah, if you wanted crazy-ass stories from the road, you came to the right place.
Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about. Jason, of course, is with us, and Jon has recently returned from a motorcycle trip to the Arctic Circle, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is your trip. And
what kind of bike did you ride first?
So I've got a BMW F650 GS Dakar that I got from a buddy of mine named Keith. And so Keith had this bike, and he picked it out special because the Dakar is this super reliable platform that people choose to ride laps around the world. It's got a Rotax 650 engine, and those things are just super reliable. And it's old, and it's got 108,000 miles on the original piston and rings now. It's never been torn down. But he bought that before he and his wife took off on similar bikes and did a 2.5-year long ride down through. They ran around the States and visited some friends, and then they rode down to Ushuaia, to Patagonia, to Cape Horn, Cabo de Hornos in South America. I mean, as far south as you can go on roads. And it took them 2.5 years. I knew this guy from working at Fish and Wildlife here in Oregon with him, where my wife worked. And yeah, you know, the whole time he was on this trip, I was watching it on Facebook and reading his blog and just wishing I could be on this trip. And at the time, you know, I had a couple bikes that didn't run. And I was just wishing I could do this trip. And then when he got back from the trip, he was feeling tired, and he just initially chalked that up to thinking he'd been on a bike for 2.5 years. And then he went to a doctor and found out that he had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Wow.
Yeah. The local community really chipped in, and we worked on his house. And one day, you know, we're up there, I think we were thinking around with his driveway to get it ready so he could drive a wheelchair up and down it. And he and I start talking about the bike and his trip. And he just says, God, you know, that thing would be good for you. And like, after the pandemic, I just wasn't me.
Like a lot of people.
Yeah. So I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, we should buy this thing. And she's like, God damn it. If it was anybody but Keith, we wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
And so Keith wanted to find a good home for that bike. And that good home turned into my garage. And so he and I wound up putting a new clutch in it, new battery in it, fixing a windshield, putting new tires on it, doing just a whole bunch of little projects to it. And Keith, you know, when I bought the bike, I got like a ton of spare parts for it, pair of boots, pair of gloves, all these little bitsy things. But mostly what I got was the benefit of a dude who'd spent, years riding this thing. I got a couple years subscription to Keith's Dakar helpline.
Absolutely.
And I would
That's
answer.
awesome.
I'd call the guy, and he'd answer the phone. He'd say, "Dakar helpline. This is Keith." I'd say, "Hey man, it's making this weird noise." And he'd say, "Yeah, that's what they sound like. They sound like a box of rocks going down the road." And I'd call him back 2 days later, and I'd say, "It's still making that noise." He'd say, "Yeah, man, you're not used to it yet." But
That's awesome.
one day we were in there working on it, and it was still making weird noises because they do. They just sound like hell going down the road.
Yeah.
And I said, "Jesus, man, it's got like 88,000 miles on it. How long can this thing run?" And he says, "I didn't pick this thing randomly. Rotax makes really good engines because they make airplane engines. And it's a big deal when an airplane falls out of the sky."
Yes, that's true.
So I'd ride that thing to South America tomorrow if I wasn't in this chair.
Yep.
And it was one of the only times that I saw the guy get really sad because he dealt with this ALS thing like a boss. He was one of the most courageous guys I've ever seen.
Wow.
And I just kind of tried to change the mood in the garage right there, and I just said, "Well, hell, it's already been as far south as it can go.
Oh,
How far north can you fucking go, right?" And he says, "Oh, well, Dead Horse, up the Dalton Highway.
That's right.
It's about 3,000 miles. Let's see, that's an oil change, 2 back tires, probably 5 days camping above the Arctic Circle. You got to get gas and cold foods, 240." Like, he'd already thought of the trip.
Yep.
And we both kind of decided right there that someday the bike was going to go to Dead Horse, even if he wasn't going to go. The bike was going to have gone all the way from the south end of the Pan American Highway to as far north as you can go.
That's awesome.
Where's Dead Horse now exactly?
Oh my God. It's, well, like I say, 3,000 miles from my house here in Oregon. And it's as far north as you can go on the Pan American Highway. It's
Alaska, or is it Alaska or Canada?
It's in Alaska. It's 400 some odd miles north of Fairbanks, up the Dalton Highway. And it's up at the top of the Alaska pipeline.
Yeah.
And it's literally at the top of the haul road. It's the end of the road north. It's a long way up a really bad road. And so, yeah, so one day, not long after that, I was talking to him. We were driving around. I think I was taking him to a doctor's appointment in his wheelchair van or something. I said, and like ALS Northwest, this organization that does, they fund research, they fund care for people in Oregon and Southwest Washington who have ALS. Right now they're helping like 600 odd people in Oregon and Southwest Washington who have ALS. I said, maybe I'll do a fundraiser for ALS Northwest. They've been pretty good to you. They helped you get this van, I think, and all this stuff. And he says, just go ride your motorcycle. And I was like, yeah, okay. And, I guess the stuff you say to somebody that's dying kind of eats at you until you do it.
Yeah.
So took a couple years. And in the meantime, he passed away. And then it really started eating at me. And then I rode down to Southern California and I was talking with one of my buddies and I'm drinking beer. And I guess sometimes I'm prone to blurting shit out. And I was, as Mark might know, and I was maybe 3 or 4 beers into the evening or more. And I said, I think I'm going to ride to Dead Horse and do a fundraiser for ALS Northwest. And my buddy's wife says, why? And I gave her the short version of what I just told y'all. And she says, and my buddy's got a big Yamaha Tenere 700, right? He's had a bunch of bikes.
Yeah.
And she says, okay, well, he's going to go with you. And he was like, what? And like, over the next few hours, you know, he kind of was like, boy, I don't know, man, that's a long way. And like next morning he gets up and he says, I can't go with you. I can't sleep on the ground for a month. And if in hindsight, if it would have just been a month, I'd have been super happy because I took off in May because May is ALS Awareness Month. And if July could have been ALS Awareness Month, I think I would have been a lot happier because May on the Dalton this year turned out to be late May, early June. The Dalton had blizzards, a thaw, the road washed out, and then it all caught fire. It was like the worst parts of the Bible. I finally, after trying it once and waiting for 3 weeks at my nephew's house for a radiator because my radiator got clogged with mud. And anyway, my second try up the Dalton, I finally made it to Dead Horse. And yeah, they had the worst late May, early June they've had weather-wise since they started keeping records. So, yeah.
So you got the worst trip out of the way. So when you do it again, it'll be like a cakewalk.
Well, and then because it was a fundraiser, right? And because, you know, you want to do flashy stuff for a fundraiser because you're trying to do it on social media. And I got to say, I'm no influencer, right?
Right.
Clearly. And so I decided on the 4th of July that I would ride up to TiKiTube, up the Dempster Highway.
Right. Yep.
And that way, you know, north on a bike, the fundraiser that I'd say, hey, what did you do over the 4th of July weekend? North on a bike, went to the beach. And I was going to do all these cute pictures up on the Arctic Ocean. And I got within 36 miles of TiKiTube, and the Cush Drive hub on my motorcycle on the Dakar snapped all the little toothy nubbly bits off. And now no one that I've talked to, mechanics and motorcycle people and anybody, nobody's ever heard of one of those breaking. And I carry, never. I mean, it's cool to be first at something. It'd be cool
not that far north.
It'd be cool to be something. Do something first if it was cool, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I was stuck in a ditch outside TiKiTube for like 36 hours until this guy from Indiana pulls up and says, well, if you're here when I come back through, we'll unload my bike. And he's in this big Ford 1-ton like van he had set up for hauling motorcycles. And he had a bike in the back, this really nice Kawasaki KLX 400, older bike, but really set up nice. And he used to race enduros. He was an older guy. He used to race enduros. He's like an AMA enduro champion back in the 80s and 90s. And he says, oh, if you're here when I come back through tomorrow, we'll load your bike up and you can ride mine down. We'll get you out of here. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. We'll see if that happens. And like 5 hours later, he comes back through and he's like, you didn't miss much. TiKiTube's not all that great. You want to get out of here? And I was like, yes, sir. Because I had just about enough of being eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And horseflies.
And horseflies. And the one tow truck in Inuvik, he wasn't answering his phone. So, yeah, I was quite ready to leave. And so we unloaded his bike and I took off on it. And we rode into Inuvik and we got fuel. And he says, well, you want to just keep going? And I was like, sure, how far? He says, we could either go to Dawson or we could go to Whitehorse. And I said, well, there's a really cool motorcycle-only campground there in Whitehorse, the Yukon Motorcycle Park. And he's like, oh, a motorcycle only campground. That sounds cool. Let's go there. And I'm like, that's like 1,000 miles. And he says, okay. And so he said, that bike will go a lot faster than you're going. And I said, okay. And I said, if we're going to get over the 2 ferries, we're going to have to go faster. And he said, yeah, you can do it. So we took off, and I got to say, the funnest riding I did on that whole 8,000 mile trip was me on somebody else's bike.
Wow.
Without 3 tons of crap to go camping. I had so much fun on somebody else's bike.
Yeah.
But wow. Yeah, we rode down the whole Dempster Highway and into Whitehorse from just south of TiKiTube in 2 days. Still tired from that one. And then I ordered a bunch of parts for my bike. That took about a week. Hung out there at Yukon Motorcycle Park and worked for Bruce, doing little odd jobs and working on other people's motorcycles. And then got the Dakar put back together and rode from Whitehorse to my house here in Oregon in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're really getting after it. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Well,
Quite a trip.
That's high praise from you. I mean,
was there any moment in your trip that you thought, this is going to kill me, I'm not going to make it home?
Oh, well, let's see. Which one?
That's a pretty dark topic.
Hey, no, I mean, that's what adventure is all about. I mean, you know, you get through this, and
this is true, but you generally don't talk about it. But anyway,
oh, come on, it's not a jinx, is it?
Like I said, it was slightly traumatic. So there was so I carried this little satellite messenger thing so I could send text to people. Yeah. And I couldn't send pictures, but I could send texts. And so I was stuck outside TiKiTube, and I'm texting my wife. I'm like, oh my God, the bike is broken. And she's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. And it was, you know, out on the edge of this muskeg swamp in a ditch. I start kind of looking around and taking stock of where I am. And I mean, I still see pretty good at a distance. And I start looking over, and there was a lake, and then maybe 300 yards or meters, if you're so inclined and Canadian, there was the Arctic Ocean, a finger of the Arctic Ocean. And
how many feet would that been?
900 some odd feet, or 39.37 inches to anyway. I mean, I lived in Australia for a while, so I can go either way. Once you go metric, you never go back, as my wife says.
I know that term, but it's different.
Anyway. So like 250, 300 yards away, whatever, there's this shape. And I start looking at it. And you know, like how you look at something, and the more you look at it, the more you see it?
Yes.
Oh, Goose, please don't play with the squeaky toy right now, bud. I got to move something quickly.
Dude, Goose is his dog, by the way.
That's cool. That's cool. The more the merrier is what I say.
He's only so bright. No, we're not playing fetch. Come on.
You are now.
No, we are now. Now we're playing tug. We're not doing this. Go on. Go away. Every time I'm on the phone. Dude, no. So I start looking at this thing, and I swear to God, it was shaped like a bear, and it was about the size of a Volkswagen.
Wow.
Bud.
Well, I'm definitely going to include this.
And I keep looking at this thing, and I texted a few people. I'm like, I think there's a bear. And my wife, who's one of the most level-headed sometimes and practical people you're ever going to meet, she says, okay, well, if there's a bear, get the bear spray out. And I'm like, thanks. And I keep looking at this thing, and like every once in a while, it would like, I thought, move its head. And I'm like, God, at least it's upwind, right? So maybe it won't smell me. Maybe I'm too far away, because it's certainly not coming this way. And like this, and there was times where there was like bursts of traffic that would go by, and everybody would stop on the Dempster Highway, because it wasn't far from 36 miles. It wasn't far from town. And they'd be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, my motorcycle's broken." And some people were like, "Well, what are we going to do about that?" And other people were like, the locals, especially like the First Nation Native folks, they were like, "Oh, do you got food?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got plenty of food." They were like, "Oh, okay. Well, that lake over there, it's good to drink." And that lake over there was full of gooses and stuff crapping in it. I mean, I wasn't going to drink that, right? But like the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, my wife called them and she says, "Oh, my husband is stuck in the ditch out there." And they're like, does he have a liter of water? And she says, "I think so." They're like, "Okay." And the locals were like, "You're stuck on the side of the road." Well, okay. Like sleeping in a ditch with the snakes and the bugs is just something you do, I guess, Like the Mounties didn't seem to care as long as I wasn't going to die and become paperwork.
That's the RCM pigs for you.
Yep. Yeah. So I keep watching this thing over there, and every once in a while I thought it would move its head. And this one guy comes up and he says, "How's it going?" I says, "My motorcycle's broken, and there's a bear right over there." And he gets his binoculars out. And I'm a little freaked out. And he says, "Where?" And I says, "See those 4 bushes and the big thing in between them?" And he says, "Uh-huh." And he gets his binoculars out and he's looking. He says, "I'm just not seeing what you're seeing." I says, "Oh, for God's sake, the big Volkswagen size thing in between the 4 little bushes over there." And he says, "Here, you look." And I look, and it's this bush with a smaller bush, and the smaller bush is like swaying in the breeze. And immediately, like, I felt better and I relaxed. And the guy says, "You okay?" I'm like, "I kind of am now." And he says, "Hey, on my cargo carrier on the back of the truck here, on the back of the SUV, there's a cooler." I says, "Yeah." He says, "Go get yourself a beer."
Isn't it funny how our brain plays tricks on us sometimes in situations similar to that?
Oh yeah, like I say, after 18 hours on the bike, everything's got a snout and claws. Every stump, every rock. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a death wish. I mean, I'm not a martyr. I'm not going to martyr myself for a fundraiser for ALS Northwest. So I wasn't going to do something where I was confident that I was going to die. But, I mean, this was never going to be easy. I mean, it's a bad road to the middle of nowhere. It's as far north as you can go on roads. And I was going in May. And a lot of people said, "That's a stupid time to go." And I was like, "I know."
Well, ALS is a stupid disease. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it is. It's unfortunate anybody gets it. So why not?
It's just a horrid disease, and it's a coward of a disease. It's not going to kill you itself. It's just going to degrade your body and your brain until something else does it. It's just bad.
Yeah, bad all the way around. Just like being North, period. It's bad all the way around. So I think it's fitting that you did that for a fundraiser. Honestly, I think it's cool. There's a stereotype of truckers out on the road that we're all maniacs and murderers and rapists and whatever. And I think
there's a little truth to every legend, right?
Well, I guess, but not really. I mean, truck is not how it used to be back in the day, and I think that's why I like this. Like the start of our podcast, we have that guy on there going, I can't remember what he says now. But
Oh, hey,
oh,
I
you just did
I
you see
saw
that?
that happening.
What was that?
The guy's mattress just blew out of his
Did you see? It's on. I've got it recorded.
It's,
I'll be sure to include this.
I always wondered how that stuff got there.
Yeah, well, he's got to go back and get it now.
Maybe.
I destroyed it, so I wonder how bad
Yeah.
my bumper got bent there.
So anyway, Jason, you were saying
I forgot now.
about the opening
stereotypical truck
stereotype.
driver.
Yeah, yeah, I know I totally lost my train of thought about stereotype stuff. Anyway, I think that I like to put the stereotype in people's faces because I personally not the stereotypical truck driver that everybody would assume, you know.
No, dude, one of the things that I said to Mark a couple times is like, you appear to be one of the most self-actualized, psychologically rich truck drivers that I've met.
And Mark was telling me about that, and I had to make him define all those big college words. So.
I gotta say, you know, when Keith got back off his trip, before he got diagnosed with ALS, he went and did because he wasn't. So one of the things, and I wrote about this in my blog that best I can tell nobody read, is that when you're on the road and when you're on a motorcycle, you get into this thing that psychologists call a flow state.
Right.
And that's when, you know, time and you're so focused on doing what you're doing. And you can get into this on a motorcycle or when you're fly fishing or kayaking or surfing or sailing, a bunch of different stuff that I've done. I mean, it's kind of where I'm happiest. But like when you're in that flow state, like time sort of stands still and you're just in a whole different zone. You're so in the now that so you get used to that flow state. And like I gotta say, like since I've been back off the trip, like I'm having gravel road dreams at night, and like bike's not running right now. And like I drove to Idaho to go fishing with some people, and I was driving across from Burns in the middle of the night, and I'm like, this is boring. Paved roads are boring. Cars are boring. Yeah, I miss the motorcycle. And so when Keith got back off his trip, one of the things he did, because he wasn't ready to be off the road yet, is he went and he did a commercial truck driver course. And in his commercial truck driver course, there was dudes from India, and like he said, there was like people who spoke like 5 and 7 different languages, and he had a great time doing this course because it was a really diverse cross section of humanity in this course.
Yeah.
That flow state you're talking about is kind of what I don't know. I would define it as just adventure. That's so, you know, it's just getting out of your comfort zone. And
I personally find it a moment of clarity where it's just my world, and I can see, I can look. It sounds weird. I guess maybe I don't see it, but you kind of look in on the world from a different perspective because you're not in the normal world anymore, I guess, and it makes you seem smarter than what you really are. But then when I get around groups of people, I'm a complete idiot. I clam up. I don't talk. I just fade into the shadows and prefer to be there instead of with people. So
it's kind of hard to explain to people who, like my wife doesn't get it. Like it's tough to explain to people who are really wrapped up in their own day-to-day misery of job or kids. And
well, this is where the whole thing about stereotypes comes into play here. Stereotypes are easy because it makes you forget about what is, you know, the real world and all the different things that make up a complicated world. And, you know, when you're sitting next to a bunch of people who are talking, they have no concept of the adventure you're just got off of, and maybe not really willing to hear what you have to say. So I think I
think society's problem is right there is nobody's listening to anybody because they're too busy doing their own life. It's ridiculous.
So I was sitting in the bar one night at this place I stayed in, Whitehorse, And I would go in there in the evenings after dinking around, working on people's motorcycles and doing little odd jobs for the guy that owned that motorcycle-only campground, Yukon Motorcycle Park. And I get to talking to this guy, and I give him a sticker, and the sticker has a QR code on it, so you can donate to the fundraiser and all this stuff. And he says, well, that's interesting. Tell me about you. And I give him the lowdown. But I've done some goofy stuff, right? Like, I've never been any good at, like, when we moved to Australia, my wife's from Australia, and when we moved there, I moved from a small town in Oregon where I'd been working as the world's smartest deckhand to being in a big city. And I was going into the city on a train wearing a tie, and I was miserable. And eventually I wound up, I was an officer in the I got my Australian citizenship. I did a teaching degree. And then I used that teaching degree to become an officer in the Australian Navy. I know. Sounds weird. But
you have a dual citizenship. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I have a commission from the Governor General of Australia, who is the Queen's representative for ceremonial and administrative functions in her stead. I have a commission from the Queen as a naval officer.
Wow.
I know. I mean, and if you don't see it on paper, and if you don't see it like in pictures, it sounds like bullshit, right? And so this guy at the bar said, tell me about you. And so I give him this short version. Oh, I used to pollock fish in Alaska, and I crab fished in Oregon, and I have 2 bachelor's degrees, and I have a commission from the Queen, and I used to manage a ski patrol at this place, and I taught skiing at this place, and I used to have a whitewater rafting company. And this guy's like,
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
You and Barker.
It seems like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And dude, how did you get that off the top of there? Oh, you got a different squeaky toy. Put that away. God. This is Maverick, and Goose is going to go play with Maverick somewhere else. So this guy finally says, he goes, that's amazing. I said, And he says, no. You've told that story a lot of times, haven't you? I says, well, I guess so. He says, you're a practiced liar, aren't you? And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he says, there's just no way. And I said, hang on a minute, because we have Wi-Fi. Here's the pictures. Here's me in the Arabian Gulf. Here's me, in Alaska. Here's me catching a giant trout. Here's me doing the first flipless descent of the Green Trust Run on the White Salmon River. And he's like, oh.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, sorry, it's true, but it is, and
I think that's great. See, and it's people like you that make me feel shitty because I think I'm living a good life, but then you're out having like way better adventures, and now I'm jealous. So,
well,
thank you.
It's all a matter of perspective. Yeah. Jason, I look at you and you have an adventure every single day. I mean, we talk because you're on the road someplace and experiencing this, you have mattresses flying up to your truck and you have to avoid.
Right?
I'm just trying to keep the dog from playing with a squeaky toy.
Yeah, but it's cool. I don't know. I just think I'm trying to prove the point to Mark that I think there's way more interesting people. That's not a right word, but you know what I mean. There's way more interesting people than I am, But
it's one of the things I've said to people before. I'm like things get pretty interesting once you get off the couch. Like, in the months leading up to this, it wasn't all that interesting at my house. And in the months since, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of bored right now. So
you have to find a way to get to that same level mentally, at least.
I was talking to a guy, a friend of me and a mutual friend we have in Boise, And it was right when I got back from the trip, and he sent me this thing, and it was an interview that Neil Armstrong did when he got back from the moon. And it was, so here's Neil Armstrong, right? And he gets back from the moon, and Neil Armstrong was like, Jesus, what do I do now? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it's not like I went to the moon, but like,
It sort of was.
yeah, I mean, not quite the moon, but it's a long way.
It's definitely way out of your comfort level.
Anybody's comfort level. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty cold and wet at first, and then it had its weird moments, but I mean, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what to do next. I think one of my Facebook posts, it was my Facebook post after I did 22 hours in the bike. I think I said something like, I hope you were paying attention because I will not be doing this again. But I mean, it bugs me that I didn't make it all the way to Tuktoyaktuk.
I would think you're close enough to say you were there.
Yeah, close counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Mentally in your head, you're like, no, I didn't make it, but
I didn't make it. I am gonna go back. It won't be on the Dakar because that thing has retired from doing epic crazy trips. It's been as far north and south as it can go, and
yeah,
I'm not gonna tempt the gods by riding that thing back up there, but yeah, I'm gonna ride back up there. Places I want to go on a bike, and there's better bikes to do it on. Like, I've never been to Key West, and
Well, that's kind of what Jason and I've been talking about, is this documentary film going with him across country.
Yeah.
And to Florida.
Oh yeah.
And
then back.
Hopefully to Florida.
Look at the on your face. You want to come on that trip, don't you?
Oh, no, you didn't tell me that you were going there.
Okay. Yeah. Still working out the details. Anyway, I just got a notice saying that this meeting is just about over, so I think we should just wrap it up, guys. And John, when you come into town, I hope to have an edit ready for you to look at. And
sure.
Yeah, can you see Jason looking around? Jason, did you hit something?
Yeah, that mattress.
Oh, you just making sure there's nothing stuck under, like a body?
No, I'm making sure my bumper's not bent, which it is.
The mattress bent your bumper?
Yeah, dude, it's doing 70 mile an hour down the highway.
Okay.
Just like screen out. I don't know how that hits.
No.
I can't see my screen.
No,
yeah,
that's
okay.
Bent.
Yeah.
That fucking sucks. Good thing you got it on film. My boss will never believe that it wasn't my fault.
I'll make sure. Well, I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, I was thinking that would be good to show on.
I mean,
on the podcast is the mattress flying off at your truck. This is the hazard you go through every day when you're driving.
It could be worse, and it could have been a bag of kittens or something.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Or that one truck that was burning up on the road that you saw.
You got off light.
Okay. All right, guys. You're breaking up there, Jason. There you go.
No, I'm not. Anyway, it's all good.
All right, guys.
John, thank you very much for doing this with us, and hopefully we can do it all again.
No worries. I'd love to go for a ride sometime.
Yes,
absolutely. Both on the bikes and in the big truck. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of jonesing for a Road King or something with a windshield.
Right.
Okay. All right, man.
Some little kid waving at me there.
Aw.
Yeah.
You still get those, huh? All right, good.
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah.
All right, John, thanks a lot, man. And I'll see you when you come into town next. And so maybe we'll have an edit ready to look at. And Jason, I'll be talking to you soon as well. And we'll be working on the next episode I got a couple people
Sounds
to
good.
contact. John, it was a great pleasure. You were great. This is a lot of fun. And I can't wait to throw in all those photos you sent me. And you and I can go over those and you can tell me where they belong.
Sure, we'll throw in a link to that fundraiser site. We're at
Yep.
about 5,050 some odd, 5,000 some odd dollars, and
Wow.
wouldn't break my heart if that went bigger. I'm having lunch next Wednesday with the woman who helped me put that fundraiser together. And once again, sometimes I'm such an asshole. I waited until May, which is ALS Awareness Month, to ask the woman that does their corporate fundraising and special events to help me put together a fundraiser. You know, she does all these, she organizes all these walks and golf tournaments and stuff. And I says, hey, I want to do a thing. She says, what do you want to do? I says, I'm going to ride a motorcycle to the North Pole. It's going to take 2 months. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, what's she, you know, somebody wants to do a fundraiser. What's she going to say? Oh, no, we don't want your money. And I got like halfway there, right? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, shit. Asking her to help me organize a fundraiser during ALS Awareness Month is kind of like asking Mrs. Claus to help you organize your Christmas party the 3rd week of December.
Fair point.
This gives me an idea, and let me run it by you, Jason, later. And John, you might just get that right across country with Jason if it works out. But let's talk about that. Maybe we'll get some good things going with that. I'm going to hang up now, okay?
All right.
Okay.
We'll talk to you both real soon.
It was a pleasure meeting you, John.
Good to meet you, Mike.
Go split some wood.
See ya.
Midnight knocking on my door with a whispered name. Midnight knocking on my door with a whispered claim. I said the man's coming for me and I'm ready to die. Walking hand